Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this afternoon's coverage of full live practice and qualifying from Darlington Raceway for what is to be the regular season finale for the NASCAR Cup Series this weekend. And this, of course, being our coverage of how we're going to set the starting lineup for tomorrow's race, who's going to have the fastest car and on-track activity the day before race day as we come into this Labor Day weekend. Southern 500 weekend is the fourth and final crown jewel event for the NASCAR Cup Series this season. So this is a race that historically anybody would want to go and win. If you can win here at Darlington, theoretically speaking, you could drive and win anywhere. This is a very demanding racetrack for these drivers, especially over the course of 500 miles. Tomorrow night, we'll have a lot of changing in track conditions from daytime to nighttime. And of course, it's going to be very, very hot, as it usually is here in Darlington, South Carolina, late August, early September, year in and year out. Temperatures today supposed to reach the low 90s by the middle of the afternoon. As of right now, still in the mid 80s as we're about to have cars on track for the first time here this weekend. For the Cup Series side of things, practice and qualifying already took place in the late morning hours for the Xfinity Series. They will have their race later on today at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. We will have full flag-to-fly coverage for you for that. As far as this goes, we'll take a look at the point standings coming into today's practice session. As you see, on the screen, the regular season championship battle between Tyler Reddick, Kyle Larson, and Chase Elliott. Those are the three drivers going for the regular season, able to win that title. Tyler Reddick comes in with the points lead. He took it for the first time this season at Michigan after a win a couple of weeks ago. He has a 17-point cushion over Kyle Larson and an 18-point lead over Chase Elliott. So we'll see who's going to mount that regular season title in their trophy case this weekend. And as far as the actual playoff race goes, of course, that is going to be intense as well to see who will have a chance at the obviously locked into the playoffs with 2 wins on the season, 4 for Kyle Larson, 1 for Chase Elliott, 2 for Ryan Blaney, William Byron, Christopher Bell each have 3, as well as Denny Hamlin. Brad Keselowski also has 1 win on the season, same for Alex Bowman, Joey Logano, Daniel Suarez, Austin Cindric, and of course, after last week, Harrison Burton upsetting the field at Daytona, getting the win in that race, clinching himself a playoff spot as well. 3 drivers can mathematically lock themselves in on points if we don't have another new winner tomorrow night. Martin Truex Jr. is 58 points to the good above the cutoff line. He actually could clinch himself a championship spot in stage 1 alone, depending on how many stage points he scores on the early going, if he scores any at all. Very good probability he's going to make it. Ty Gibbs comes into the standings this weekend as we'll get the actual playoff standings on the screen here. Ty Gibbs is plus 39 points behind his teammate Martin Truex Jr., currently 15th overall in the playoff grid for Gibbs, and Chris Buescher is the last driver above the cutoff line on points. He is 21 points to the good. Bubba Wallace is 21 points back. He's the first driver out. Ross Chastain is minus 27 as well. If Harrison Burton did not win last week, then Bubba Wallace would have the last spot on points by just 6 over Ross Chastain. So not a must-win situation by any means for Wallace and Chastain, but they're going to need a lot of help from Buescher or Gibbs having a pretty bad run on top of them having a stellar day tomorrow. Remember, Ross Chastain was in contention for a win here through much of both races in 2023. Earlier this spring didn't have a great run at Darlington, but we'll see what could go for him here this weekend. Chris Buescher was one of the threats to win that Darlington race earlier this year, so to expect him to have a bad day might not be the case. Might have to go out there and win the race if you're someone like Wallace or Chastain. We'll have to wait and see, and it'll be interesting to see what practice and qualifying bring. Cars that need to run quick this weekend. We'll see if they'll actually be running quick out of the gate, or if they're going to have to make some huge overhaul adjustments overnight and before the race tomorrow. Through practice, group qualifying per usual. Half the field will be in Group A, and the other half in Group B for both practice and qualifying. And each group will get 20 minutes of practice. The 18 cars that will be on track for Group A practice will be Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Kyle Larson, Harrison Burton, Chase Elliott, Daniel Suarez, along with Ross Chastain, William Byron, Denny Hamlin, Eric Jones, Tyler Reddick, Zane Smith, Brad Keselowski, John Hunter Nemechek, Bubba Wallace, Austin Dillon, Chris Buescher, Ryan Preece, and Joey Logano. Those will be the 18 drivers that will be first to practice again. 20 minutes for Group A.
What will that tyre fall off be like? What will the track conditions be? Nothing changes about the task at hand. That is, and every single one of the 37 drivers in Cup Series competition this weekend will tell you that you've got to respect this place maybe for a moment, and this track is going to remind you of just how difficult and challenging it is.
Front bumper of 11 of Denny Hamlin. You're now on the front stretch. You're going to climb the banking into turn one. Jeff, a little bit like threading a needle entering one. Yeah, I love this racetrack because of how narrow the groove is. Denny Hamlin, you see, he's not all the way against the one tack. Listen to how far he drives in the corner. Already entering 3/4 up the racetrack. Back to the throttle quickly. Look, he's one of those guys that makes it look easy around here, but it's anything but, because you're always dancing between the edge of not running hard enough and running too hard. If you kind of take it easy and say, all right, I don't want to hit the wall, you're going to run really, really slowly. You have to find a way to push and find lap time while saving your race car a little bit. It's hard to do both.
That shocking Eric Jones to the top of the board. You know, rarely do you think of someone that has won single-digit races in their career and say, oh, but Darlington's his best racetrack. I mean, or how could it be that way? But it is for the driver of the 43, right? He has 3 Cup wins total. 2 of them came at this racetrack. There's something about it that suits his driving style. I kind of liked his outlook coming into this year's Southern 500 as well. He said, look, admittedly, we know where we are in the playoff points. We're way back. He said, I think the pressure would be higher if I was one of the bubble drivers. He said, knowing my history here, if we've got a good car, I'm going to go out and have some fun. And if that leads to a win, well, then so be it.
Yeah, one thing Eric Jones is doing, if you look at the line that he's running around the racetrack, it's very much a qualifying line. He was right around the bottom of the racetrack in 3 and 4. A lot of other guys are up the racetrack. But even here, he's not using all of the racetrack. And that's something that you can do on newer tires. And that may be that he's those first few laps were about, what does my car need to do in qualifying trim? Look where he is now. Now he's up the racetrack. Now he's using the racing line. The first part of that run with 2 tires, a lot of grip, run his shortest way around the racetrack.
Let's take you back to his most recent win 2 years ago in September 2022. This is what Steve was just alluding to. You got 3 Cup wins and 2 of them are here. You know, the moniker, the track too tough to tame. Well, this guy's got the magic. He knows how to unlock it here. Dave Burns?
And Lee, remember how he got here for the May race? He hit crashed very hard at Talladega and had a back injury, missed 2 races after that, and then returned at Darlington. A lot of the media asked him, are you sure you want to return to a place that's called too tough to tame, like Darlington? But he knew he wanted to be here for this to be his return track. Finished 19th on the day, but said he had to get back in the rhythm of things here. Very comfortable with how the racetrack changes throughout the 500 miles. And he's proven already with the 2 wins, he can get it done. Could he be a surprise entry to the playoffs after Sunday night?
You know, I'm not sure. It would be a surprise entry game, but not a surprise win. We were lucky enough to have car runner Jimmy Johnson on the Peacock Pit Boss last week. And remember, he believes in this guy. Jones got a contract extension earlier this month to remain at Legacy Motor Club. So a lot of future here.
From the 43 to the 47 of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Practice session before we go into qualifying mode. It's kind of refreshing, Jeff. Have a little bit of practice before we qualify. 20 minutes is a good hitter.
Well, you know, here at Darlington, the 20 minutes is all you can do with 1 set of tires. I mean, if you were going to run more, and even 20 minutes is pushing it with 1 set. But yeah, this is a great opportunity for teams, drivers to learn what your car can and cannot do. Now, the disadvantage to that is that you can't hit it. Like, because of the tires, they fall off so quickly. If you don't like your car early in the run, you almost can't get to work on it. Because, Steve, it completely changes the balance of the car just stopping and going back out on tires.
Yeah, it completely changes the balance.
Whoa, Ricky!
Sloops it off turn 4. Heavy contact to the inside wall. Damage to the nose of the race car.
Right around there. Flat right around.
7th on the speed chart, as you had pointed out, Lee. Oh, excuse me, 3rd on the speed chart, had run 7. So, the track has bitten its first victim. And that's Ricky Stenhouse. And as Steve said, that was decent contact on the front. First hiccup of the practice session here in Darlington.
So Ricky Stenhouse Jr. gets a little loose off turn 4, right rear corner panel, tagged the wall, but it wasn't enough to save his race car from spinning down the racetrack and into the inside retaining wall head on. Kind of damaged the splitter, pushed it up quite a bit. The nose caved in just a bit as well. Caution for the first time in this 20-minute practice session for Group A, only about 7 minutes in. Erik Jones top of the speed charts with a 29.542. We were talking about him a little bit ago, or at least I wasn't, but the USA Network broadcast was, in the sense that he does have 2 career Southern 500 wins, 2019 with Joe Gibbs Racing, 2022 right here with the 43 car. So we'll see if he can win again this weekend, looking fast early on. Denny on into the wall, so very likely he'll be going to a backup car. Definitely won't be qualifying in a little bit this afternoon. Ross Chastain is 4th, and then William Byron 5th on the grid. Bubba Wallace 6th, Tyler Reddick 7th. John Nemechek 8th, Kyle Larson 9th, Brad Keselowski in 10th, Harrison Burton 11th, Chase Elliott 12th, Chris Buescher 13th, Austin Dillon 14th, Daniel Suarez 15th, Zane Smith 16th, 17th for Ryan Preece, Shane Van Gisbergen in 18th. So that is the field of cars that have made some laps here in practice so far, and the order in which they are on the speed charts. Very stacked practice for Group A, considering the names that are in the field here. Mainly due to their points situation. A lot of the bubble drivers on the playoff grid, as well as the regular season championship drivers, are in this Group A practice session. All 3 of the drivers going for the regular season title this weekend, Tyler Reddick, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, are in this practice session, currently 7th, 9th, and 12th. And then the drivers that are on the bubble for the playoffs in this session would include Ross Chastain, who's 4th, Bubba Wallace, who is 6th currently in practice, Chris Buescher, who is 13th. The only other drivers for points purposes in that battle would be Ty Gibbs, Martin Truex Jr., who are much further ahead of the cut line. They'll be in Group B's practice session. So again, under caution right now, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has spun in practice. Bringing out our first yellow. Sure to hit the like button if you haven't done so yet. Subscribe for more NASCAR content. Live NASCAR commentary streams every race weekend for Cup, Xfinity, Truck Series races, as well as Cup practice and qualifying, as you're seeing right here. Again, our Xfinity Series race coverage later today will begin at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, and our pre-race coverage before the start of tomorrow's full flag-to-flag race at the Darlington Raceway for the Southern 500 for the Cup Series will be tomorrow at 5:30 Eastern. Stenhouse back in the garage area.
Tame and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. just back now. It is too tough to tame. That's why I'm under caution. I love this place. Love everything about it. Got to do some interesting stuff here. Never won a race like you did. But I got to be the Grand Marshal of the Hauler Parade last night, which was a huge honor for me. So that was like, and you're doing something cool down here.
Yeah, I sure am. But first of all, welcome back. Glad to have you up here once again. Yeah, I'm going tomorrow in pre-race. Going to be driving a car that's Shell Yarborough. Obviously, we've lost Kel now, the Hall of Famer, great career, so tough here through the years. So looking forward to that. I thought we had a lot of similarities. You know, we both raced here. Neither one of us ever won the Southern. We had Yanis that did win the Southern 500, but we did win our first race like Harrison Burton with the Wood Brothers.
The Wood Brothers.
That's right, guys.
Phenomenal. We're still bathing in that afterglow of last weekend, just the significance of it for the Wood Brothers. And there it is, the famous 21, their 100th victory. It was just a magical night in Daytona. So what does the Southern 500 give us tomorrow? We're starting that question thread right here, right now. For the 2 of you who have experienced so much here, including wins, and you've come here so many times, I'm happy to say that this is my first time ever to Darlington, and I've had the fortune of working and being at some of the most famous racetracks in the world: Monza, Le Mans, Silverstone, Bathurst, Daytona. You know, I've been all over, but this is my first time here, and just coming here really early this morning on sunrise, the history grips you, and it is such a treat to be here. It hasn't treated Ricky Stenhouse all that well. Tell us more, Dave.
Yeah, he's hopping out of the car now. You're making good lap time. What happened there off 4?
Yeah, just trying to get the most out of it. Been working really hard. Feel like every time we come to Darlington, we're really good in 1 and 2 and struggle in 3 and 4. And I was just up there running close to the wall. Got a little tight. The rear just stepped out there. But our Trover drumstick Camaro, I think it's, our setup is good. I think the boys will get us fixed back up. I don't think it's too terrible. So hopefully we'll be able to race this one and have to come through the field. It's a long 500 miles here on a Sunday. So not the start we wanted, but I feel confident in my guys.
Thanks, Ricky. Jeff Burton, this track does lend itself to being great at one end and then having to work really hard on the other.
2 completely different ends from 1 and 2 versus 3 and 4. And you heard Ricky right there saying I was trying to get the top working and I got tight. You saw it spin out, right? So when you hear a guy say I got tight and then you see it spin out, well, how does that happen, right? So you're asking the car to turn, you put more wheel to it, you're going to the throttle, and eventually you got so much air to it that the rear tires just no longer stick. And watch how quickly it goes around. But that all started, Steve, with him saying first he was too tight, not too loose.
Yeah, too tight. I'll remind the listener, 26th in points, way below the cut line. It's a must-win situation for Stenhouse if he wants to advance in the playoffs. He said repair it. We talk a lot about this car versus the cars of the past few decades. This car's very modular, meaning kind of like an open-wheel car, like another series. They can kind of just unbolt everything in front of the front suspension. I assume that the front clip is fine. So it's the bumper structure, the nose really will unfold, the radiator, the cooling. So I think the opportunity to repair this car, if the foundation isn't bent, it's going to be okay. So good news for the 47 if they can repair it. It might take most of the night, but they'll get the repair done. How about this view? Love it. Love it. But Chris Buescher, RFK Racing, in the 17, and he is sitting in the hot seat in the 16th and final position, heading in to the final race of the regular season. Can he make it? Can he win? He almost did earlier this year here in Darlington. And that's a real thorn in his side. Where he came so close. There was an altercation with Tyler Reddick. And it evaporated. It went away. His teammate ended up winning the race. And let's take you back there now and remind you what went down here earlier in the year in May.
Great race. Guys really going at it. Buescher with that big move. And then watch this. Tyler Reddick trying to make a slide. Buescher gets loose. Contact.
Frustration between the two, and you understand why, but Buescher felt like he had to race one. I think Reddick at this point is saying, look, I'm sorry, I messed up, I think one of the most telling things there too, fellas, was afterwards when we were eavesdropping, and you could hear Chris Buescher, and he pointed to Tyler's car to a victory sticker and said, I don't have one of those. I needed that. You're already in. I needed that.
Yeah, surprisingly today, Chris Buescher is only 13th fastest, and Brad Keselowski 10th fastest. Both of those guys had a real opportunity to win that race. So not the fire-off speed that they were hoping for in practice. That doesn't mean they can't qualify well. However, if you look at their lap times in race mode, I still don't think they're as good as they need to be. So it seems like they've lost just a little bit compared to the way they were in the spring. But Steve, this track changes more than any racetrack that I know of with rubber and how it affects to nighttime going through the Southern 500. It may not be there right now like it need to be, but I will not be surprised when it counts for them to be in the hunt.
It's one of the few racetracks, so I'm going to contradict my approach when I go somewhere that's a newer pavement, maybe a little higher speeds. I care about the lap time, Dave, right? I hope it drives good, but to be honest, it just has to be fast. We are in a race. We aren't in a ride, contest. This is one of the few, because of what these drivers are going to be asked in white checkered wall, it's, okay, we're not as fast as we are, but how comfortable are you? Was that easy? Or is your tongue hanging out, like going as hard as you can go to make this lap time? You saw Ricky Stenhouse. That's too close to the edge for me. Simple mistake. I'm not blaming him. But I want my driver to be a full step back from the edge. I want some comfort to be able to do this all day long. Now that last fuel run, you're probably going to have to find the edge.
So we know in this situation, right now, good at the points, but has to have a good night. Ross Chastain is chasing him, 27 points back of the cut line. Let's see what they're talking about.
Landing in the 3, I have all the front turn. And when I test travel early like I am, I can get tight, but I'm turning early and aggressive with that because to be that tight, 1 and 2 is like the hill, right up the hill, which is why the extra brake was happening. And when I did let it break that lap, it felt tighter longer, but off the cuff, it feels worse.
Great feedback. I love everything he was saying. So he said, tight up the hill if you want. Let's take you around Darlington, start, finish up the hill. That's this section right here. Front compressor, you see the fire on the pipes. Front tires loaded. Once it gets to the wall, it's almost like a little straightaway. In the gas around there, Jeff, and then the compression on the exit of 2.
Yeah, he was given a description about the brakes, and he said the reason that you're seeing that is they're looking at data, and they're like, hey, Ross, other people aren't using as much brake as you are. And so he tried to use less brake, and what happened to another driver is a great tool, and the team needs to use it. But why are you using more brake than the next guy? That's the most important part about that conversation.
And that was clearly recorded in the stoppage, right? Because it was a long explanation.
So a little bit of time was added onto this practice session with the caution from Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in the first 7 minutes. Erik Jones obviously still top of the speed charts. Every team for practice session, their 20 minutes, Group A, Group B, will have just one set of tires, so you're not going to really see these into the practice session. That is why you see pretty much everybody has ran their fastest laps on lap 1 or 2. The only driver at lap 3 to run their fastest time was Daniel Suarez, as he's back in 15th overall. Erik Jones in the 43 car, again, is top of the speed charts. His lap time is a 29.542. That averages of a speed of 166.461 miles per hour on that lap. Denny Hamlin second overall. Stenhouse third, but has crashed. He will not be qualifying today, but the hopes is to get that car repaired and run it for race day tomorrow, even with the damage that was sustained from the crash. Ross Chastain fourth, and then William Byron fifth. That is the top 5 in practice thus far. Bubba Wallace sixth, Tyler Reddick seventh, John Hunter Nemechek eighth, Kyle Larson ninth, and Brad Keselowski is 10th. This is all Group A. Group B cars still yet to hit the racetrack, of course. We'll take our first ad break of the stream. You're listening live to Southern 500 practice on KRC. Once again, a reminder, there is no NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series racing that is set to go on here today or this weekend in general. They started their playoffs last weekend at Milwaukee, but they are off for the next couple weeks. Just NASCAR Cup and Xfinity Series coverage this weekend and next weekend. Actually, really, the next 3 weeks are only Xfinity and Cup Series dates. Trucks will be off until Bristol, the third weekend of September. Third full weekend, that is. Frank Powers, Lincoln Kim Hollingsworth, and Billy's Live Race. Thanks for tuning into the stream. See you all in the chat.
Oh, it is stunning. So it's great. So Jeff, you and I were just out there in the pace car. You were showing this is down the backstretch into turn 3. So in a normal racetrack, this wall kind of goes down and then just connects like a nice arc like that. That's what you're wanting to do. That's what your car wants to do. But here at Darlington, watch the 77 right here. See what he did? So he goes down and he actually turns right and gets up into that pocket against the wall and then makes the actual corner. And you were saying, Jeff, that you think getting up into that pocket, even though that's right at the beginning of the corner, helps you all the way around to have a better angle.
You want to be as close to the wall as you possibly can. Aerodynamically, it makes the car drive better. There's more grip up there. The way to do it is to use that pocket. You actually turn right a little bit. Watch this. Turn right, get up right up against the wall, and that's where you make the most grip. And that's all great. until you do this for 500 miles.
Right.
And then you miss it by a little bit and you're in the wall. The other thing that happens is see where the cones are on the wall? The wall is actually turning into the racetrack. It actually moves to the left, goes into the racetrack, and then it goes right. And we will see championship drivers hit the wall off the corner in that part of the racetrack because it surprises them how fast it comes out.
Well, what happens is you see the tire marks right here, right? So when you go in there, you lift, right, Jeff? And if you carry too much speed on this entry, when you see the tire marks right there in that blue paint, it just pulls you right in.
It's just one of the things that is so great about the racetrack. The exit of turn 4 has a very similar look to it. It also has a pocket that you can use.
And somebody who knows how to win at Darlington, William Byron in the 24. He's 5th on the speed charts with just a minute to go. Practicing that pit road entry. We also talked about that. We have seen so many of the biggest stars miss a pit road entry that they already know is very, very, very difficult. I would imagine every one of these drivers will give it at least one run at the end of this practice. So 44 seconds to go. We'll see if we can catch somebody going down the backstretch. You know, it's hard to see, and you get down on that flat, and it's just messy and dirty. So you got the box is way, see if I can even see it. I think it's way out here, right? So basically, you need to be under that box, under that line. So that's your entry. There you go. There's a great shot at it. The problem is it looks so easy to get to, but when you enter turn 3, it's so far down around to your left. And the good car, here he goes. Here's Bubba Wallace. We stay right here. Bubba's coming in the screen. He's going to come in right off right, on the brakes, turning left. Nice job underneath it.
We did that today in the pace car.
Thank you for that,
I
Bubba.
throttled up down the back straightaway and just drove it as hard as I could into turn 3. And we missed it, and we did it just like, all right, let's try this and see what happens. And it is so easy to have it. It's one of the we talk about drivers every week having to maximize pit road entry speed. This is one racetrack. I don't need to hear that. I want you to get on pit road. I want you to get on pit road clean. I don't care if you give up a second or 2 seconds getting on pit road. I don't need you to make that massive mistake that can change our night. You're better off being conservative here than you are aggressive.
So Brad Keselowski comes into the pits with the 10th quickest time from the first group. Second group coming up. Been racing here in Darlington since 1950. The history is immense. The challenge is huge, but it's so much fun.
I'm Livy Dunn, All-American.
Alrighty, so that concludes Group A's practice session. Again, Eric Jones first, Denny Hamlin second, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. third, Ross Chastain fourth, and William Byron fifth fastest. I saw somebody, Frank in the chat was mentioning something about rain potentially tomorrow. It is in the forecast for later tomorrow night. Earliest I saw higher chances of rain were after 8 p.m. Even then, it's only in the 30 percentile range. Looks like it's a 30 to 40% chance of rain 8, 9 o'clock and into the evening tomorrow night. So as far as getting the race in, they're definitely going to be able to start it on time. And I would imagine they'll be able to get past halfway within 2 to 2.5 hours before we get any kind of rain, which means it would make the race official. If we see rain later into the evening, it'll be interesting to see exactly how much it rains, how much we lose the racetrack, how long it rains for, to decide on whether NASCAR would end up calling or not. But I still think we're going to get the race in tomorrow at the very least. That is if it does rain. I mean, it's not even like a high likelihood of rain. I'll pull up the Weather Channel app again and let you guys know what I saw. Hour by hour forecast for tomorrow. 36% chance of rain around 8 p.m. It doesn't get higher than 41%. A 41% chance of rain is the highest at about 9 p.m. Tomorrow. And it kind of stays between 40 to 30% all the way through midnight. Eastern time, of course, local time for Darlington, South Carolina. So I would like to believe that it's, well, obviously, based off the stats alone that we have, it's more likely to not rain than to rain, with it being less than 50%. So there's that. When you have that small of a percentile, I think they're just looking at potential pop-up showers more than anything. But that late into the night, you usually don't see pop-up showers that late in the evening. Temperature-wise, still supposed to be around 80 degrees that deep into the nighttime, about 8, 9 o'clock local time. So, I mean, yeah, there's a chance of showers, but I don't necessarily guarantee that that's going to bring rain. Now, obviously, it could still rain. It's just, like I said, more likely not to rain than to rain. Group B cars are on the racetrack as of right now. The drivers in this group would include Alex Bowman, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Austin Cinder, Christopher Bell, Mark Truex Jr., Ty Gibbs, Kyle Busch, Chase Briscoe, Kaz Grala, Carson Hocevar, Corey LaJoie, Josh Berry, Todd Gilliland, Michael McDowell, Timmy Hill, Justin Haley, and Carson Hocevar. Those are all the drivers in Group B's practice session. And we will see who will be quicker between Group A and Group B. Logano down on the ride limiters. Definitely got the air pressure low to start his run. Bottom of the car is bottoming out quite a bit for the 22 Shem Pennzoil Ford Mustang. Seen the leaderboard change quite a bit already with the Group B drivers making laps on the racetrack. Carson Hocevar ran the fastest first lap of anybody from Group B. He's 9th overall. Tyler Reddick standing with Dave Burns on pit road.
That's in your opinion.
Thanks for our camera's really solid. We had the 47 bring out Floss in there and broke up everyone's wrong. Just never know how it's gonna fire back off in practice, on that limited break you're gonna have to around. So it's really good to see speed that had before the break is good fact hard live. Yeah, just I don't know. Project's pretty good, kind of run my own deal, and I thought 42 was gonna go to the bottom, and when he did, I did too little, too late, right behind him, right up on the back bumper, just nowhere on the front of the car. I'm still the wall.
Thank you, Tyler. Pretty easy to find peril here, but also good that he has space.
Well, I think that shows you.
Definitely tell it's hot on pit road. Dave Burns is sweating profusely right now on the pit lane, on the asphalt, reporting live, going through all the ups and downs of trying to break through the heat while staying live on the air. Kudos to Dave Burns for doing his job here this weekend. So insightful interview there with Tyler Reddick. It did look like he brushed the wall a little bit, as he stated in that interview. Got up behind the 42 car, in a pocket of dirty air. Car shoved up against the wall while already running on the outside lane. We'll see that quite a bit this weekend. They call this track the Lady in Black for a reason, and that is because of the black stripes that the cars make around this racetrack. And you can see quite a bit all the way around the fence from Xfinity and Cup practice already. We haven't even had an actual race yet this weekend. Most of them in turns 3 and 4. For the most part, it looks like 1 and 2 is pretty clean. Carson Hocevar, top of the speed charts overall for Group B. 29.829 for Hocevar. Christopher Bell, second fastest for this group of cars. Alex Bowman, third. Ty Gibbs, fourth. Josh Berry, fifth. Corey LaJoie, sixth. Martin Truex Jr., seventh. Todd Gilliland, eighth. Michael McDowell, ninth. Justin Haley, 10th. A lot more of the heavier hitters were in Group A's practice session. Ford seemed to be struggling on top-end speed so far this weekend. Brad Keselowski was the fastest Ford through Group A. He was 10th in that group. And the fastest in Group B's practice session for Fords is also outside the top 10 where the Penske cars are. So they're lacking a little bit of pace. Long run speed is a little bit better than their short run speed overall compared to a lot of the teams running around them, but I wouldn't say that it looks anything explosive on the long run that could maybe contend. So a lot of adjustments going to have to be made out of that Ford camp. Yeah, Noah Gragson, well, I guess technically Todd Gilliland, 8th place to be the fastest. Oh, I missed Josh Berry. My bad. Josh Berry, 5th. Be the fastest Ford in this group, which is faster than any Ford that ran in the last group. Keselowski still though the fastest Ford overall, which is 11th on our board. 5 Toyotas, 5 Chevys in the top 10 on the overall leaderboard. What you see on our screen is the overall leaderboard for those of you watching practice on the USA Network. Their leaderboard on the left side of the screen is only the Group B fast times as of right now. So the fastest lap times for Group B, and this probably won't change now that we're about 6.5 minutes or so into Group B's practice session. Carson Hocevar first in that group. Christopher Bell second, Alex Bowman third, Ty Gibbs fourth, Josh Berry fifth, Corey LaJoie sixth, Martin Truex Jr. seventh, Todd Gillett eighth. Ninth for Michael McDowell, Justin Haley 10th. Kyle Busch 11th, Noah Gragson 12th, Joey Logano 13th, Austin Cindric 14th, Chase Briscoe 15th. 16th for Ryan Blaney, Daniel Hemrick 17th, Kaz Grala 18th, Timmy Hill 19th. Timmy Hill in that 66 team for MBM is the only non-chartered entry here this weekend, so we'll have a 37-car field tomorrow night. So overall practice times is pretty much the same. Carson Hocevar is the only driver in the top 10 overall in practice from Group A drivers. So top 8 still all the same from Group A. Eric Jones top of the charts, then Denny Hamlin, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Ross Chastain, William Byron, top 5. Bubba Wallace 6, Tyler Reddick 7, Jonathan Nemechek 8, then you see Hocevar in 9, Kyle Larson 10. Full screen commercial break on the USA Network. Once again, we'll take another ad break of our own right here on KRC. You're listening live to Southern 500 Practice on the channel. Go blue indeed. I'm ready to go. I got the hat, got the shirt. I'm ready. 7:30 kickoff tonight. And I'll be able to watch it because the Xfinity race is going to be done well before that. So I am ready to go. Wade and Northwest Rail fan, thanks for tuning in. Got 20 likes on the stream. Appreciate that. Our goal is to get to 50 likes during these live commentary streams for Cup practice and qualifying. So if you haven't hit the like button yet, be sure to do so. So we can get to our goal. We're 30 away. Going to a sprint car race, Skagit Speedway tonight. Oh, there you go. Won't be able to watch a football game, unfortunately. Well, I mean, it happens. I miss a lot of the games during the course of this time of the year with NASCAR going on. Luckily tonight I'm able to watch it because it's at a different start time, but, days that Xfinity races in the afternoon and Michigan games are in the afternoon at the same time. Usually the way the start times are nowadays for NASCAR, I either catch the first half and miss the second half, or if it's a 3:30 game, I'll miss the first half and usually catch the second half after the Xfinity races. Same for my Green Bay Packers on Sundays during football season where, if it's a 1 o'clock game, I'll be able to catch more than likely the first quarter, the first 2 quarters of the game. If it's a 1 o'clock game before the NASCAR race starts, and then miss the second half, or if it's a 4:30 game, then I'll end up missing the first quarter or 2 and then catch the second half. And if it's a night game, I'll be able to watch the whole thing. And the sequence that, the third week of the year when Bristol's on a Saturday night, I'll watch it anytime then. I'll be able to watch next week because they'll be playing on a Friday night, so that'll be beneficial for me.
Really featured well last weekend in Daytona. He was at the front of the pack for a long time. However, his night will be remembered and defined by this. What a wild ride. Quickly, before it goes up into the air and lands on the roof, it stays on the roof. But this, Jeff, scary impact.
Yeah, and I was scared for him because how many times did we see a car get on the roof and then hit like that with the driver?
I don't think I've ever seen it before.
Think any longer. He's hanging off the belt. He has lateral support, but that is something we just haven't seen. And it was great to see him get out of the car, and then even better to hear him say it wasn't as big of an impact as it looked. And I was shocked when he said it, but I sure was glad.
It was kind of a little bit like, no worries.
They're race car drivers. It happened differently. Wait. What were you getting ready to say? I want to hear what you were saying about race car drivers. I'll for myself.
Just under 10 minutes to go in this second group before we flip the switch and go into qualifying mode to set the grid. Kind of been an interesting season for this man, hasn't it? He's in the playoffs. He's locked in, Alex Bowman. But have they unlocked the magic and the full potential of this 48 yet?
You know, it kind of seems like that a lot for Alex Bowman. You know, all he does is win racing, right? And people are always questioning whether or not he's good enough. And he is. He is good enough. 6 playoff appearance, 6 top 5 finishes this year. He's won a lot of races in his career and also fought through a tremendous amount of adversity in the recent past. And you know, if you don't have an injury and the things he went through, it takes a little while to come back from that. And I just think people have been a little bit too hard on Alex Bowman. He's a really good race car driver. I think he could show it in the playoffs.
You know how you said fight back, Jeff? He fought back really well last week with a damaged car and 16th. I know 16th doesn't sound great, but it was a really resilient effort by the 48 team.
Right there, the car, I think it's the best in this practice, or one of the best on a really, really long run, is this 12 Ryan Blaney. I mean, he's run this group of 3 cars down. When I look at his kind of his lap tracker, out of lap 12, 13, and beyond, he looks really, really nice.
Look at that close middle corner.
Run down both the 31 and the 34 car turn really nice right there on exit. Ryan Blaney, you know, he's continued to just get better and better. And I think the experience now, coupled with never a question about pace, right? Never a question about pace. And just having the right experience of how do you win a championship. And we saw him a few years ago lose a championship, made some mistakes in the playoffs, knocked him out. And then what did he do? He came back and won the next year. And I think that is just a huge milestone in a driver's career, to make those mistakes, make those big mistakes, and then overcome it. And Blaney is going to be a threat for years to come.
Remember last week we were talking about Kyle Larson and not having a top 5 at Daytona? Same rings true for Ryan Blaney here in Darlington. And he can change all of that tomorrow night in the Southern 500. Here's Dave Burns. What you got?
Just checking in on Michael McDowell in the 34, a little bit different color scheme for here this weekend to keep an eye on. Jeff, I want to ask you, when the car slides the nose entering turn 1 as your biggest problem, can it be overcome? How easily is it to overcome right here?
Well, there certainly it can be overcome. There's got to be some changes made to the car, but why does that matter, right? And the reason it matters is because if you can get the car to turn left and get pointed more quickly, then you can go to the throttle, and now you can carry the speed you need to carry it through 1 and 2. And that's such a vital part of this racetrack, especially in qualifying trim. So entering turn 1 right here, drives in the corner, goes to the bottom, sliding up. It needs to be turning now. If it's turning now, he can go to the throttle. He can go way to the throttle, carry tons of speed, and then he'll have to lift a little bit on corner exit and then go back to the throttle. But if you can't do that at qualifying speeds, no pace, and if you can't do it in the race, then they're just going to drive underneath you and put you in a bad spot coming off turn 2. So it is a vital part of this racetrack.
Here's a guy who could have maybe as many as 5 wins here over the years. He's had a lot of close calls as Martin Truex Jr. And he is sitting in that kind of danger zone, if you want to call it that, with no win. But he does lead the points as far as those trying to lock themselves in to the playoffs. Martin sits 14th. He's 58 points to the good as he contests his last Southern 500 as a full-time driver.
Alrighty, 5.5 minutes left of practice, and then we'll get into Group A qualifying immediately on the other side. Once qualifying begins, it'll be group by group like we usually see on most ovals outside of super speedways, where the Group A drivers will go out. Each driver will get 1 lap because this is a track bigger than 1 mile in length, about 1 mile and a third or so here at Darlington. But each driver will get 1 lap. Top 5 from Group A and the top 5 from Group B will advance into the Fast 10, where they get to requalify for a shot at the pole. And all the Group A drivers that don't get the pole essentially will end up lining up on the outside row to begin the race tomorrow, and the Group B drivers will line up on the inside lane, outside of those front row positions, of course. All right. So practice taking a little bit longer because of that Stenhouse incident back from Group A. There hasn't been an incident on track in Group B to this point. And they're down to just a couple minutes to go. Well, how about Eric Jones, top of the speed charts right now? And it's not just him, his teammate Jonathan Nemechek, 8th overall in practice as well. So both the Legacy Motor Club showing some speed this weekend. Again, Jones, a 2-time Southern 500 winner. Trying to make it 3 this weekend. Had so many upset winners, drivers outside the top 10 in the driver points winning this season, but especially through the summer months. Really, ever since Joey Logano won at Nashville, that just opened the floodgates for guys outside the top 10 in the driver standings to just start winning races, because you had him, and then you had Bowman the next week at Chicago. And then you fast forward into the later summer months, and you got an Austin Dillon winning at Richmond, Harrison Burton last week at Daytona, of course. Although Dillon's win didn't count towards the playoffs, but still an upset win nevertheless. And just keeps moving that line further and further away. Cindric at Gateway too, I guess. Really, I guess the Cindric Gateway win was what kind of started the madness. He won, and then 2 weeks later is when Logano ended up winning at Nashville, and preceded by Bowman, of course, like I already mentioned.
I think Blaney's the standout of this group. But I think Ty's in that next group. I think there's 5 or 6 that it's hard to say, right, with traffic and, you know, it's hard to compare, but I think the 54 has something to work with, has something to deal with, some adjustments. You see Bell kind of behind him. I'm trying to confirm. I thought they had the same amount of laps on the tires. So, you know, they're matching each other at lap time. That last lap right there from Gibbs was an outstanding lap. He all of a sudden just picked up a big old chunk of speed. Not sure where that came from, but if I'm on the radio, I'm letting them know wherever that is. I like that. Big pickup of time.
Yes, I think that I agree with you. I think that there's one group, which is Blaney. He leads that entire group, and then the next group might be 2 groups behind him because Blaney is light years better. But I like the speed of this car as well. He's quicker than his teammate Bell. He's driven away from him. Look at that, right against the wall. There's got to be a win. Nothing for this young man. It's got to happen, and you wouldn't think that a 500-mile race would lend itself to a young driver like Ty Gibbs, but I think it does. I think that Ty has learned the right balance between being aggressive at the right time and not. He's done a really nice job in this series to do that. What they lack is the ability to keep the pace the entire race, and that to me is a challenge for he and this team.
So I'm a big believer in the numbers. Gibbs is making his 77th start. You saw Harrison just win a week ago. He was in his mid-90s. We've seen some of the biggest names in the sport. Like 90 is this magical number. Around 100 starts. Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, now Harrison Burton, Ty Gibbs. We're talking it's right around the corner at 77. I believe it's going to come earlier. But I mean, look at this list. Jeff, you were 96. I had Harrison at 96. I lied to you. He was 98. William at 98. Chase at 99. Larson at 99. That's a pretty impressive company for Harrison to be in. So to think that Ty's at 77, it wouldn't shock me if it comes earlier than 90, but I don't think you need to panic, even if it's early next year and he's somewhere in his 90.
Can I give you some more numbers?
Level.
Runner-up here earlier this year. He was only 1.2 seconds behind Keselowski for the win. Last 2 races, top 5 results. Got some momentum going. Top 5 momentum at the right time of the season. And as far as the playoff situation, he's 1 behind Martin Truex Jr. position-wise. That is, he's 5th.
All right, so practice just concluding here at Darlington Raceway. The red and black flags are out to indicate the end of the session. And again, we'll get into single car qualifying here on the other side of the commercial break. All the Group A cars will be first, and you'll see the lineup and how they will go out. So Shane Van Gisbergen will be the first driver to qualify for Group A, followed by Daniel Suarez, Ryan Preece, Denny Hamlin, Austin Dillon. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., but he is probably not going to be able to qualify with the damage from his practice crash, I would have to assume. So when he gets skipped, it'll be Chase Elliott, Eric Jones, John Hunter Nemechek to round out the first half of Group A for qualifying. So again, Shane Van Gisbergen, Daniel Suarez, Ryan Preece, Denny Hamlin, Austin Dillon, Chase Elliott, Eric Jones, John Hunter Nemechek, and Zane Smith will be the first drivers to qualify, the first 9 for Group A. So once again, practice has concluded. So we'll take another break and we'll get right into qualifying for the Southern 500 here shortly. You're listening live on KRC. I believe this will be the Darlington debut for SVG. We're probably going to see more races out of him in that 16 car with him making the move back to the Cup Series for next season. I would say between him and AJ, as Allmendinger will actually be running that car next season full-time in the Cup Series, just as he did a year ago. Which is going to be interesting for the playoff scenario when you consider next season, because you'll have 2 road course ringers going full-time in the Cup Series, with, of course, Cup Series wins on road courses already. AJ did get a win in 2022 in the Cup Series when he was full-time, but it wasn't until the Roval in the playoffs, so he'd missed the original 16-man field, but he did get a win. And SVG, of course, winning at Chicago last year in the inaugural event there on the street course. And his first career start, nonetheless. We are still 28 likes away from our goal of 50, so be sure, again, to hit that like button if you haven't done so yet. And qualifying will be beginning shortly. So SVG will be the first car out there.
Practice mode, we're going into qualifying mode, Dale Jarrett. So, DJ, who do you like the look of after that brief 2 group, 20 minutes each session?
Yeah, I know this is going to be a shocker, but Denny Hamlin, maybe? He's as smooth as anybody. He knows how to get it out. Way out. And it was going to go originally, in thinking about this, Tyler Reddick. But I think that he's thinking about that regular season points championship, may not put it all out there after contacting the wall there. So I'm going to go with his teammate, Bubba Wallace, keep an eye on him.
Yeah, me too. So, and listen, we're on the same page there. I'm going with Bubba because Bubba this week, sorry, Dustin Long and to some other people said, I need to portray the best race I've ever had in my career to make the playoffs. That starts in qualifying.
Yeah.
That starts in qualifying. I'm going to throw it back 50 years to 1974. 21 Wood Brothers win last week. The 43 wins this week. Eric Jones back to win the 21 and 43. Traded back and forth.
Love that.
I like that little historical significance. Kyle? Eavesdropping there. Everybody knows what they have, what it felt like, and what they would like to achieve to get a prioritized starting position for tomorrow's
Southern 500.
So we talk a lot about how this place can kind of, reach out and grab you on race trim, 4 hours, sliding around, long tires. Now, I do think 3 and 4 qualifying, easier is the wrong word, but it's a little more straightforward because you run the bottom, as Jeff mentioned. But 1 and 2, Jeff, I remember my days standing on top of the truck when we had original qualifying. The middle of 1 and 2, by speed, is nowhere near the fastest area of racing in NASCAR. But vision on top, it looks like they're going 200 miles an hour through that corner because the entry is so fast, and with the grip in the tires, it's dang near, it's wide open, I think, all the way through the exit of 2.
That is so fast. Kyle Petty and I were talking during Xfinity qualifying practice. The worst thing ever happened was when all these crew members were able to stand down there in turn 1 because they can hear when you lift, and you want to be the guy that drives in there the deepest. That wasn't always in our best interest, though, Dave.
So, Jeff, I got really curious when you guys were talking about how good Ryan Blaney's car looked, but it was at the end of the run because the early laps didn't look that significant. Did they hit that right? Were you just great there at the end of the run?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe I didn't fire off kind of how not the fastest firing off, but it's always a balance here, right? It's like, it's great to be fast early, but how much of a deficit are you going to pay? So I think it's just about balancing that out. So I didn't think our first 3 or so laps weren't great, but I really like where I kind of went to and built to. So that's encouraging. Hopefully it's something to learn. Hopefully I can still run a good lap in qualifying. But yeah, proud of the Menards Richmond Ford Mustang's pretty fast right now. Appreciate 12 boys. And I barely hit the wall, only with the right rear just a little bit, so that's good. And yeah, overall pretty good day. Happy with our speed. Hopefully it carries over.
Yeah, barely is good on that front. The guys, I think their quote was, nobody's making the lap time that Blaney's making at the end of the run. So that's a plus. I was going to ask you, then, what is a satisfactory qualifying run for you today, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's good. Our car was, it seemed like it. I haven't got to the later lap times yet compared to everybody, but my car, I don't think you're ever going to get out of practice here and be like, my car felt great. You're always like, I felt the least worst out of everybody because you're never going to drive great here. It's just about kind of figuring out what's the best feel and can you drive it for 500 miles and keep it off the wall. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully, I know we got some changes. Maybe we can learn from our teammates that had a little bit better fire off and see if we can, make the transfer and then see what we got.
All right, we shall see. Wouldn't that be nice? Oh, after that, guys, after a long run car, they make it a short run car.
So Shane Van Gisbergen on track for qualifying right now. He's currently on his warm-up lap. Only 1 actual green flag lap for each of these drivers. And again, top 5 from each group will advance into the second and final round of qualifying to have a requalifying effort, 1 more lap to go for the pole. Quite a few drivers going to be doing double duty this weekend. 5 Cup regulars, and the only Xfinity regular to run the Cup race this weekend, as well as the Xfinity race, is Shane Van Gisbergen in this 16 car for Kaulig Racing. Ross Chastain, Chase Elliott, Noah Gragson, Christopher Bell are all going to be running, and Joey Logano are all going to be running the Xfinity race later today as well. So double duty here in the hot heat at the Darlington Raceway for both days this weekend. SVG real close to that wall off turn 4 as he finishes qualifying lap up. A 30.267 for SVG. We'll see where that is going to rank. It was about 4 mile per hour average speed off of some of the fastest times we had seen in practice. Ran from Eric Jones. And some of the others in the speed charts there. Daniel Suarez is now next on track. He'll be one of the 16 playoff members when that begins next weekend at Atlanta. His win in the spring Atlanta race, the reason why he is there. It's a good thing he got that win all the way back in the second race of the year because he's outside the 16 spot in the driver's standings, but obviously in the playoff standings, not the case. And he's been performing pretty well as of late these last couple of weeks since coming back from the Olympic break, the 99 and the 1 for that matter. Both the Trackhouse cars looking to have speed. Suarez did win a stage at Richmond as well, so that was another playoff point that night. We'll see if he can pick up another here this weekend. A 30.015, by the way, for Suarez in his qualifying lap, about 0.2 quicker than that of Shane Van Gisbergen. Ryan Preece in the 41 car in a must-win situation to make the playoffs this weekend. On track, he just wrapped up his qualifying lap, and a 29.981 for Preece. Now is Denny Hamlin. On deck would be Austin Dillon. God rides a Harley, thanks for tuning in. Love the paint on the hood for the number 8. Yeah, Busch definitely needing a good ride here this weekend. I'd say him and Eric Jones, Busch and Jones are probably the two to look at as drivers that are in a must-win situation that could potentially pull it off and make the playoffs this weekend. You'd have to think that they're the two favorites of that side of things, of course. Austin Dillon's had some pretty good runs here in the past as well. Finished second in 2020 in the Southern 500 that year, just behind Harvick at the finish of that race. Denny Hamlin, 29.649, 3/10 quicker than Preece. Don't usually see some of the heavier hitters this early in qualifying. But because of Hamlin's finish last week not being so great, as well as a few others that were taken out in the couple of big ones that we had at Daytona, that is why you're seeing some of the bigger names in the early going of qualifying like Hamlin. Chase Elliott will be up in a couple cars as well. Austin Dillon is currently, as I mentioned, on track. And we'll see where Dillon is going to put himself. Pretty good lap compared to Hamlin. He was tracking in the green through turns 1 and 2. As long as he doesn't have that big hiccup in 3 and 4, which he did have a little bit of a hiccup. Probably a little tight off the exit of turn 4. He didn't get back in the gas as soon as Hamlin. Hamlin's still quickest of the 5 qualifiers so far, but Austin Dillon very close second to him, a 29.670 for Dillon. Checking the replay, Dillon might have actually grazed the wall through 3 and 4 just a bit. His car started hopping up the racetrack. I think he hit the wall, bounced off, and kept going. So that was the slight mistake that cost him a chance to get to that top spot, because he was about a 1/10 of a second to the good. Could have just carried too much speed on entry, which caused that. Being that much in the green over Hamlin, who we know is usually quick here at Darlington year in and year out. Nice looking black Napa scheme for Elliott this weekend. And Elliott's going to have to hope for a little bit of help if he's going to want to get into the Fast 5. Third for Elliott through the first 6 qualifiers in Group A, a 29.791 for him. Again, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. will not be qualifying today after that wreck in practice, so he has been skipped. That's why Elliott went when he did. And now is Eric Jones on the racetrack. And Jones was fastest in practice overall. Trying to put himself to the top of the leaderboard here in qualifying. He's tracking very close to Hamlin's lap time into turn 3 on corner entry. Just a few 1,000ths of a second off. Definitely tell Hamlin was able to drive it in way deeper than Jones. Jones back in the corner up quite a bit more. Fourth for Eric Jones with a 29.925. And Jones's teammate John Hunter Nemechek is now up next. Nemechek was top 10 in practice as well. 8th overall. Nice looking Mobil 1 paint scheme for Nemechek this weekend. I've always thought the Mobil 1 cars over the years have been very underrated with their paint schemes, even back in the late 90s with Jeremy Mayfield. Like that scheme that he had ran. The number 12 car at the time with Penske. Pretty good lap for Nemechek through turns 3 and 4. Quicker than his teammate Jones. 3rd out of 8 for Nemechek with a 29.696. There'll only be 17 cars to make a qualifying lap. You can see the paint scuffs on the right rear corner panel of the 3 of Austin Dillon, who again got up into the wall in his qualifying lap. Nothing too major there, I don't believe. And these are the same tires that will have to be used for round 2 of qualifying when they go to make the second lap. So these round 1 laps more than likely are going to be significantly quicker than what we will see in round 2. So round 2 is all about, okay, now you have a full lap on your tires. You're not going to have as much grip trying to make as, hard of a run, I guess you would say. So it's going to be very different from a technique standpoint for these drivers come round 2. You got to make it there first. In your fast 5 through the first, technically 9 if you count Stenhouse who didn't qualify. 9 drivers still to go. Your fast 5 is Hamlin, Dillon, Nemechek, Elliott, and Jones. Full screen commercial break on the USA Network. We'll stay right here for the moment. Next 9 qualifiers to round out Group A will be Zane Smith, followed by Harrison Burton, William Byron, Ross Chastain, Tyler Reddick, Kyle Larson, Chris Buescher, Brad Keselowski, and Bubba Wallace. So those are the next 9 qualifiers, and the last 9, I should say, exactly for Group A. 19 drivers will qualify from Group B when we get there to set their fastest 5.
After that, your goal stop here. Excellence is Polish NASCAR Club Series history. Let's dig down, John. Amazing character. The more NASCAR races in one weekend, and it's the playoffs. God damn. Right. Now you just shooting up. We're not. In fact, we're making points for it. Insure tickets now at KansasSpeedway.com. Well, yeah, buddy.
Let's continue with qualifying for tomorrow night's Southern 500 here at Darlington Raceway. Welcome back. Lee Giffey along with Jeff Burton and Steve Letarte. Dave Burns with you. Kyle Petty, Dale Jarrett. It's a warm day here in South Carolina, but it's fun to be at the track. Too tough to tame. Big speeds, big risks. There's already been several drivers scuff the wall, some harder than others. And let's get going here with Zane Smith.
Zane Smith did a really good job through 3 and 4, bringing speed to the start-finish line. Not quite the pace he's looking for in 1 and 2, but 3 and 4 was really nice. Let's see if he can repeat it. That's kind of the preferred line so far. Nice entry speed.
Yeah, most of his loss was in 1 and 2. His teammate Carson Hocevar showed good speed in the 20-minute practice session in Group B. And here, for Zane, puts it in the top 5 provisionally at the moment. Let's go to the most recent winner. Here is the 21 for Wood Brothers Racing, Harrison Burton. So keep the momentum going. Harrison had a great run at this racetrack a year ago. Some good raw speed out of the 21. He's up a little bit on entry to 1. You see just not enough confidence to keep speed through the middle of the corner.
A lot like Zane, went through 3 and 4. Go back really well. Wasn't able to do it in 1 and 2.
Oh, so close to the wall. Harrison Burton's qualifying run is done, and he leapfrogs Zane Smith to put the 21 in 5th for the time being. Let's relive the moment of Harrison Burton's life. Last week at the World Center of Racing, holding off somebody like Kyle Busch for the most dramatic victory, the 100th for his team, the Wood Brothers. That was a universally loved victory.
A love victory, and the fans in attendance got what I'd love to see, which is a race back to the start finish. So many speedway races, we get that last lap rack right and it ends under yellow. It always just creates such a moment when they get back to the start finish. And this is a moment shot across the rest of the field, right? That's compared to 5th. So I wasn't sure just how good it was going to be. Well, obviously,
Very good. 2/10 clear of Hamlin and William Byron to the top. My goodness, with authority.
Wow.
I thought I was getting tricked when we switch like this. Sometimes they turned in the green a little bit more. Byron could have been compared to anybody. Needs to be a massive weekend for Ross Chastain if he's going to contest the playoffs. Car number one's got to be position number one. And so far, he was in the green, just lost it there. Just over into the red a little bit. Still has a shot, though. I tell you, enough speed in the three, but not too much. A little wiggle from the car there. Is able to maintain the pace. Now it's going the wrong way. But now it starts to level off. Sixth for Ross Chastain.
29.806 for Chastain. He does not break it into the fast five. 5 drivers still to go. We've got Tyler Reddick, Kyle Larson, Chris Buescher, Brad Keselowski, and Bubba Wallace remaining, and Reddick on track right now. I'd like to see the upper deck paint scheme. The blue-yellow with the red number font kind of reminds me of the old Bobby Hamilton 81 or Kenny Wallace 81 Square D car from the Andy Petrie racing teams back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Not a throwback, of course, so this weekend. They've got MJ on the hood as they try to go for a regular season title here this weekend. So Reddick's second fastest, 29.463. Put a fight up with Byron for the top spot. Kyle Larson just wrapped up his qualifying lap as well. On our speed charts, Larson's second quickest, even closer to Byron's time, jumps Reddick. A 29.445 for Larson, 6 1/1000ths of a second off for him. So Byron, Larson, Reddick. I should say Byron Larson locked into the fast five, and then Chris Buescher's on track right now. Both RFK Fords, and then the other 2311 Toyota, Bubba Wallace, still to qualify. Yeah, great lap for Larson, one of his better racetracks. Finally broke through and won the Southern 500 a season ago for the first time in his Cup career, so we'll see if Larson could go back-to-back in this very race. Buescher breaks into the top five. Fourth, 29.622 for Buescher. He is not locked into the top five, but Reddick is. So Byron, Larson, Reddick locked into the fast five. Buescher put up a great lap, much better than the speed shown in practice on the top times, from Buescher at least. So one of the bubble drivers on points for the playoffs. And that final cut spot are in the fast five for the moment. We'll see if he stays there. Teammate Brad Keselowski seems to have struggled in qualifying to that of Buescher through most of the season. I wouldn't be shocked if Brad does not make it into the top five here, but his teammate did. Keselowski starting his lap off pretty hot. And he does sneak in there barely, 29.624. So Buescher's locked into the fast five. Keselowski jumps Hamlin for fifth. And now Keselowski's the bubble driver, and it's going to be between Bad Brad and Bubba Wallace for the final transfer spot to make it to the final round of qualifying. Can Bubba get there? He does. Wow, great lap by Wallace, 29.328. Bumps Keselowski, and that is the fastest lap we've seen today, both practice and qualifying. 29.328, that's an average speed of 167.676 miles per hour as he gets the top spot by over 1/10 of a second. Thought Byron's lap was quick. What a lap by Wallace. Nice looking U.S. Air Force scheme this weekend for the 23. Did get a piece of the wall off of turn 4 on his lap. Definitely tell he was going for broke there. He scraped it though. I don't think he hit it very hard, so laying it all on the line, trying to get that track position. He knows how much is going to mean to qualify well here this weekend, put himself in a prime position to start the race tomorrow. He needs all the points he can get through every single stage to try to put himself into the playoffs. Great lap. So that knocks Keselowski out of the top 5. So your fast 5 from Group A of qualifying is Bubba Wallace, William Byron, Kyle Larson, Tyler Reddick, and Chris Buescher. 2 of the 3 going for the regular season championship, and 2 of the 3 battling for the final transfer spot on points. Elliott Chastain missing the fast 5. We'll have to start mid-pack for the race tomorrow. So you can see the order in which the Group B drivers will go out on track next. We'll start things off with Timmy Hill, then Corey LaJoie, Noah Gragson, Kaz Grala, Justin Haley, Michael McDowell, Josh Berry, Joey Logano, Todd Gilliland, and Austin Cindric. Ton of Fords in Group B. A lot more Fords in this group. Very few Chevrolets. And a fairly even amount of Toyotas. Well, only 3 Toyotas in this group. We would have had 5 in Group A. If the 3 are going to be Joe Gibbs Toyotas, Hamlin was the only Joe Gibbs car that was in Group A. So we might see some Joe Gibbs Racing Toyotas in this group. Be interesting to see what the Fords can do, because Buescher and Keselowski showed more pace in qualifying than they did in practice. Brad didn't make the top 5, but he was very close. He was only 2 1,000ths of a second off of Buescher for that final spot. So we'll take a quick break. Races on the CW? No, it's on USA Network. Xfinity race today is on the USA Network. I think today's race, as well as next week's race, is still on USA, if I'm not mistaken. And then when they go to Bristol, they'll be headed to CW. Let me verify that real quick. But I'm pretty sure that's the case. So I thought it was only the last 8 races for the Xfinity series that are supposed to be on. Yeah, it's on USA Network. Next 3 races, sorry. Next 3 are on USA still. They have 11 races left. So Darlington, Atlanta, and Watkins Glen are still on USA for the Xfinity series. And then, yeah, Bristol, CW. Bristol through the rest of the season. And then the next 7 years also, followed by that, the Xfinity series will be on the CW. So Timmy Hill is now on track for qualifying. .296 as he wraps up his qualifying lap for Timmy Hill. Timmy! I got to do that every so often. I try not to do it every time I see Timmy Hill on TV, but my South Park reference of the day. Live on stream. Get a 31.296 for Hill. Corey LaJoie in the Chili's car will be up next. Definitely not chilly this weekend in Darlington, I'll tell you that much. It is scorching hot, like the pepper on the Chili's hood. Well, not the definition of the word chilly when it comes to weather. If that makes any sense. Corey LaJoie's lap quicker, of course, 29.534. Timmy Hill lacking a lot of pace. He's 1.7 seconds off of LaJoie's lap time. Yikes. 66 team, of course, not running every single week. Again, they are the only non-chartered entry here this weekend. Noah Gragson will be the first SHR Ford. in this group to go out. First of many dominant Fords, or more dominant, I should say, from practice. Kyle Busch is with Dave Burns on pit road, a little interview mid-qualifying.
Luke's and Matt Johnson, sir. So trying to get the back of the car settled down and racetrack, and I think that'll make us a little bit faster. So track's gotten pretty quick here with qualifying, and some of that rubber being back off a bit. So we'll just have to see how it sticks right here and try to get us to the top 5 to transfer through.
That faster is what you're looking for, guys.
Stuart Haas race. I know Gregson was running.
Gregson's lap time, by the way, was a 29.632, so actually a little slower than that of Corey LaJoie. Usually in qualifying, you see the Group B cars typically faster than Group A. They can look at the telemetry, they can look at the data. Maybe here at Darlington, they can be a little bit different. When you consider the fact that there's many different driving styles that go into this racetrack with a very much lack of grip, this older asphalt. I believe it was last repaved in 2007, if I'm not mistaken. Have to let me know in the chat. Kaz Gralla wrapping up his lap, 30.142 for Kaz. Got the rookie stripes on the back of his race car this weekend in the 15 for Rick Ware Racing. Part-time role this year. Ran select Xfinity races this season as well for Sam Hunt Racing in the 26. Christopher Bell is also with Dave Burns on pit road.
It's based on the extrapolation for qualifying. How about
Extrapolation.
I think we're going to have a shot at it. It felt pretty good to take off out of straights. And strickled on the long run, but it had to be where we took off. So normally that's pretty good time for qualifying. We had good metrics, so we're at the end of the qualifying group, which is normally good on these really slick racetracks. So we're not out of it yet. See how we go for round 1.
Thanks, point in the right direction. You mentioned it, round 1 is going to get through this first, guys.
Justin Haley wrapping up his qualifying lap behind Bell on pit road, and it will be a 29.538 for Justin Haley. Second quickest of the first 5 of 19 cars to qualify in Group B. Michael McDowell will be the first of the 2 front row cars on track. McDowell on the pole a weekend ago at Daytona. He's actually got 4 poles this season. I thought he had 3. He has 4 poles this year. All 4 in his career. That's going to go down to the record books when he retires, and you're going to look back at his career statistics and you'll be like, oh, 2024, Michael McDowell had 4 poles in the NASCAR Cup Series. Yes, that is true. 3 on super speedways. And with Atlanta, Talladega, Daytona a week ago, and of course getting one at Gateway earlier this season as well. Looked like he might have scuffed the wall off turn 4 on his lap. He does break into the top 5 for now, 29.653. Definitely slowed McDowell's lap off the exit of turn 4. He might have lifted a bit before he scraped the wall. Definitely cuts the straightaway speed off a little bit more as you hit the wall, maybe more towards exit of the corner rather than in the middle like we've seen from several drivers. Quite a few Darlington stripes already, though, in qualifying, that is for certain. As well as practice a little earlier. Not to mention all the Xfinity cars that hit track for practice and qualifying in the late morning hours as well. Josh Berry in the 4 car wrapping up his qualifying lap, jumps to the top of the speed charts at 29.509 for Josh Berry. 0.25 of a second quicker than Corey LaJoie. Also a little over 200s quicker than Haley's lap time. I wonder with all the Fords that are actually qualifying in this group, how many of them are actually going to get in the top 5. We'll have to see. Joey Logano on track. I'd imagine Logano's going to have easy speed to get into the top 5. He didn't drive as hard in his corner entry through turn 1 on his qualifying lap, but picked up a lot more straightaway speed down the back. Was over a 1/10 of a second in the green on entry into turn 3. Lost a little ground through 3 and 4, but still pretty good to jump into the top 5. 4th quickest for Logano, 29.563 for the 22. And the Long John Silver's 38 car now of Todd Gilliland is on track. So Gilliland is now up. Gilliland not tracking to get up into the top 5 and a little bit slower than his teammate Michael McDowell, by the looks of it at least. Yep, no top 5 for Gilliland. Right behind his teammate Michael McDowell in the running order, about 2/10 exactly behind him. 7th for Gilliland out of 9, a 29.853. He dropped off quite a bit in the second half of his lap. Austin Cindric is now on track. Second of the 3 Penske Fords to qualify. Cindric gets the green. 21 car, Harrison Burt was in round 1, or Group A, I should say, Group A of qualifying, and he did not get into the top 5. I can tell you that much. I don't know exactly where he ended up, but I know it definitely wasn't in the top 5, so he will not be in the final round of qualifying. We'll go through the full qualifying order once everything wraps up, of course. And we get our full lineup at the end of the first and second round sessions. Cindric to the top of the speed charts, 29.444. He's probably been the one Penske Ford that more often than not seems to qualify pretty well on a regular basis. So great lap there by Cindric. That might be fast enough to break into the Fast 5. We'll have to wait and see. So a lot of those Fords and one Chevy, it looks like 9 Fords and 1 Chevy have gone out to qualify so far in Group B. Only 2 more Fords to go. The order in which the rest of the drivers will remain for the Group B session will be Ryan Blaney. He'll be up next, and then Martin Truex Jr., Daniel Hemrick, Alex Bowman, Chase Briscoe will be the final Ford. And you got Carson Hocevar, who was fastest in Group B practice overall. Kyle Busch, Christopher Bell, Ty Gibbs will round things out. Those will be the last 9 drivers to qualify. We'll take a quick break. You're listening live on KRC to Southern 500 qualifying at Darlington. Waiting to see what's going to come out of this final 9 to see who's going to break into the top 5. I'd imagine of the drivers who still have to qualify, I think the majority of them have a very good chance of getting up into the top 5. Big names up there, some that qualify pretty well on a weekly basis, like a Bell, a Gibbs. I could see Truex or Bowman, Blaney getting up there as well. I don't think they're all going to get up there of the 5. I like the Joe Gibbs Toyota that's getting up there more so than Blaney. I feel like Blaney, he's a driver that doesn't seem to qualify as well as Cindric or Logano, but he races well during the course of the race. And this has not been a very good track for Blaney throughout his Cup career. He still has not yet scored a top 5 here. He didn't even score his first career top 10 at Darlington until we got to the next gen era. He's ran better at Darlington over the last couple of years, but again, still has not broken through with a top 5 finish. He's had a couple top 10s. Once again, we're about an hour and a half away from Xfinity Series racing today. That will be at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. And our Cup Series coverage tomorrow night will begin at 5:30 p.m. Eastern with our pre-race, followed by, of course, the full Southern 500. Ryan Blaney, top of the speed charts as he rounds up his qualifying lap here. A 29.375 for Blaney. Very quick lap. Almost 0.07 of a second quicker than his teammate, Austin Cindric.
But really impressive
Still in green, coming to the line for the good of almost 0.2 of a second, pointing to the top. At the moment, it's a Team Penske 1-2 in this second group. I get whatever it didn't do in race trim, and maybe kind of told Dave, instead of being a little patient, maybe what it didn't do is maybe he just didn't push the car. Maybe he kind of let it settle in. Single part of the run, this produces for JGR's Mark Truex Jr. Now, this is an interesting conversation. So Jeff and I, in the commercial break, asked Cindric, Cindric was going to make it to the top 5, and I thought Gordon in 5th. I thought there was some more speed in the racetrack, but Blaney then puts that in question with that 37, and now we have Truex, who's going to also bump Cindric down quickly with the best lap of the day, I believe. Sure is. Mark Truex Jr. to the top. I'm going to change my answer, Jeff. Well, I mean, look, think about that lap by Truex. He's announced his retirement. He's announced he's not coming back next year. And then, boom, you got to go fire that lap off. That's a full commitment lap. And by the way, that was sponsored by Bubba Wallace, like Group 1.
Yep.
In Group 1, here's Daniel Henry. Look at this. So let's see, still within reach. So we can a little time down the back stretch. Daniel Henry with 34 to the practice. So this is a massive gain for this team. For practice to ground out. Sure is. Jumps his way to 8. So that, nothing against this team, but that tells me that this racetrack may be gaining speed as it goes. Well, for sure, because that 8th place lap currently would have been top 5 in section 1. Well, the track is definitely getting better. 6
More rubber. More grip.
The Ally Chevrolet of Alex Farmer. Great 1 and 2s. That's the wrong pace. Still a little bit of time left, though. Coming out of 3 and 4. For Alex Farmer, it's going to be 9 at the moment. 5 times.
Ouch.
Group 2. I didn't see any obvious handling issues, but it's so subtle anymore. I think it's hard. Once they have a big over, it's hard to know it, right? All right, keep in mind, John Ferry, Stuart Hart Racing is in the top 5 provisionally at the moment. Let's see what Chase Briscoe can do. You know, we don't mention Chase Briscoe's name in this battle to make the playoff, but as well as Stuart Hart ran here in the spring. Don't count this guy out tomorrow night. He can win this race and get himself in. I'm going to start by trying to win the pole this lap. If he can get clean off turn 4 easily.
Wow.
Top 5. And it's going to push Corey LaJoie out, who has survived up until now, as Briscoe goes P2.
29.294 for Chase Briscoe, only 2/1000ths of a second off of Martin Truex Jr.'s lap time. And here comes Carson Hocevar, who has qualified in the top 10 numerous times this season. Having a great rookie year for Spire Motorsports in the 77. He's actually the only one of the 3 Spire Motorsport drivers who is at the team this year who will return back to the team next season. Zane Smith parted ways just a week or 2 ago. Of course, it was announced a few weeks earlier than that Corey LaJoie will not be returning to the team. Interested to see who will be the teammates to that of Hocevar next season, and a great lap in qualifying for Carson, 29.419, right between the Penske Fords of Blaney and Cindric. 2 drivers to qualify. Truex, Briscoe, Blaney are locked into the Fast 5. Sorry, 3 drivers to qualify still, so Truex, Briscoe are locked into the Fast 5 right now. Kyle Busch is on track. Christopher Bell and then Ty Gibbs will round out qualifying behind him. Busch needs to have a good starting spot here. Again, he's in a must-win situation, track position. So key here at Darlington. Well, passing is definitely available on this very slick racetrack. It gets harder and harder the longer the run goes as the tires start to fade and you start racing the track more than you're having to race the other drivers around you. Not great for Busch, 29.531. He'll be starting outside the top 10 tomorrow. Might fall back a couple more spots with Bell and Gibbs still to qualify. Been great in qualifying all season. Couple of poles apiece for him. And here's Bell. It's got to be the 29.444. Ryan Blaney's locked in, by the way, to the Fast Five after Busch's qualifying efforts. Cindric and Hocevar are the two on the bubble. Bell is over a tenth of a second to the good on his corner entry through 3 and 4, and he's easily got it. Bell to the top of the charts. Fastest time today for Christopher Bell, 29.239. So Joe Gibbs 1-2, and we'll see if they'll go 1-2-3 with Gibbs now on track to round out round 1 of qualifying. Gibbs has to beat a 29.419, which is Carson Hocevar's lap time from this round, as he just went a couple of cars ago. I would imagine with the other two Joe Gibbs Toyotas in the top 5 that Gibbs should be able to get there. Although he didn't get through turns 1 and 2 very well. And through 3 and 4 had to pick up and get it. 29.472. Gibbs does not qualify in the top 10. Carson Hocevar gets the final transfer spot. So your Fast 5 from Group B will be Christopher Bell, Martin Truex Jr., Chase Briscoe, Ryan Blaney, and Carson Hocevar. And they will have a shot to go at the pole in round number 2. Good job for the rookie Carson. Another top 10 qualifying effort. Look at that wall in turns 3 and 4, by the way. And then just showed on the camera on USA Network. It has been beaten to death, and the races haven't even began this weekend. We haven't even had a race yet at the track this weekend. The wall's already all black. The white wall has turned black. We're going to have to repaint it after the Xfinity race before the Cup race tomorrow. Otherwise, that thing is just going to be dark black by the end of the night tomorrow. Good old Darlington. So round 1 of qualifying has concluded. And the Fast 5 from Group A and Group B will have a shot to requalify for the pole. Each team will have to use their same set of tires that they used through round 1 and round 2. So the lap times that you see there, those 29.2s, those will not be existent in round 2. It'll be interesting to see how much they'll fall off from one heat cycle to the next. Every lap, such a big difference here at the Darlington Raceway on tires. Over the course of a 30 to 35 lap run for some of those teams in practice earlier, we saw a fall off of up over 2.5 to 3 seconds. So a lot of mid 29s on the fastest lap. I think Jones did the fastest practice lap with a 29.5. So lap time pulled down to around 32.5. We have about 3 seconds of fall off. Definitely not going to be seeing some 29.2s in the race tomorrow. I can guarantee that. They're going to want to conserve their tires over the course of a long run, I would imagine. So the order that you see on the screen right now is the correct order in which they will qualify. Sometimes on the raw feed, they give you the correct order, and sometimes it's in numerical order. So we'll start things off with Chris Buescher, followed by Tyler Reddick, Kyle Larson, William Byron, and Bubba Wallace will be the first 5 to qualify. They were all from Group A. It's descending order of how they qualified from Group A, 5th through 1st. Then the same thing will happen for Group B, as after Wallace, there might be a little bit of a break before Hocevar, then Blaney, Briscoe, Truex, and Christopher Bell to round things out. We'll take our final break of the of the live stream, final ad break of the live stream. There we go. That's what I meant to say the first time. Appreciate everybody tuning in. You're listening live to Cup Series qualifying in Darlington for tomorrow's Southern 500. All right, so here we go. Once again, Xfinity Series racing later today, 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow's Cup race, our coverage will begin at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. all live right here on the channel. Won't have to go anywhere. You will have the full flag-to-flag coverage for you. Xfinity race today on the USA Network, and the same for the Cup race tomorrow. That will also be on the USA Network. Fans filling in some of the seats on the front stretch grandstands. Sitting out in the hot sun, trying to stay cool. I see somebody with a cold bottle of water on their face. That's not surprising to see. Everybody's still trying to stay cool. Got some people building scaffolding in the infield. We've got some tarps off. One dude is absolutely dripping in sweat wearing black. Looks like he's got a Kyle Busch shirt and hat on. It's a scorcher. I remember when I went to Darlington, I was there for the Southern 500 in 2020. It was pretty hot that weekend. I played a round of golf that Saturday afternoon during the Xfinity race at TPC Myrtle Beach, and it was like in the low to mid 90s. I was sweating profusely out there. Here's Dave Burton standing with Carson Hocevar.
Round two. Again, based on practice, we knew we were going to be really good. Or at least I was hoping so. It seems like I always mess it up in qualifying. You know, we're just kind of trying to go for base hits, right? Just to keep our cars getting there and getting our cars better. But, you know, we see two guys that are behind us in points win. And this is our last shot. We felt like we were struggling in Richmond in the spring. Obviously, low grip racetrack, completely different. But we were really fast there in the fall. And we put a lot of effort on this one. And me and Luke's 1 year anniversary per se. It sounds a little weird saying it, but Southern 500 we ran really well and qualified top 15. So we're hoping to improve on that, and our cars will continue to get better. And tonight we're just trying, or this weekend we're just trying to go for a home run. And starting up front like this, I think shows we're here. The sponsor course, Swamp Rabbit, Spire Motorsports, Chevrolet, can have some speed.
What's that motivation like? Yeah, someone worse than us in points. They went out and won. Why not us, right?
Yeah, especially with how well our cars have been getting. You know, we have like the 4th best average last 5 races, and man, I don't know if I've ever gotten so much data and info, and I can tell you every driver in front of me's qualifying lap, because Tyler Green and Luke Lambert would let me know everything that they were doing, and I just like almost zoned them out. I mean, we have like a little study group, and I have all faith in them, but I just had to go drive, and you know, glad it worked out and able to put a decent lap, and hopefully we can improve on that this time.
Steve, that sounds like a lot of data. Maybe we should trade places. You should come down here and do the study group with Carson, and I should go up there.
I like that too much, and I agree with that. You can actually, you know, for a young driver, he said, I like this much, I like this much. Okay, we've crossed the line. I just need to go do what I do. Let me go drive. That was my line in school. Too much studying. Too much studying and not a.
All right, so I would assume they're taking another commercial break right now, and then we'll get to the final round of qualifying. Again, have to let these round 2 drivers get their engines to cool off a bit. And usually see this kind of a 5 to 10 minute break period between round 1 and round 2 of qualifying. We've seen that all season. So not any different here this weekend at Darlington. But by the time this stream comes to an end, we're going to be about an hour away from our next live stream of the day. Again, Xfinity Series racing at the Darlington Raceway. Again, Chris Buescher, Tyler Reddick, Kyle Larson, William Byron, Bubba Wallace will be the first 5 to qualify. Then it'll be Carson Hocevar, Ryan Blaney, Chase Briscoe, Martin Truex Jr., Christopher Bell. Again, that is the order. You can see that order on our screen. And each of these drivers gets 1 lap, all on the same tires that they had in round 1 of qualifying. Right here for round 2. So interested to see who will have basically the least amount of fall off from round 1 to round 2. That's why some of those faster drivers for round one, I'm not going to necessarily say that they're the favorites for the pole on a track like Darlington because of the amount of fall off from one lap to the next. You almost wonder if running as hard as Bell was able to run and some of those other Toyotas that had fast laps in Group B, Truex, Wall's fastest lap in Group A, you wonder if, they're going to have more fall off than the drivers who were closer around fifth, even though it's only 2 laps technically on these tires overall. Again, be sure to hit the like button on the stream if you haven't done so yet. We're at 30. Goal was to get to 50 for this one. So let's see if we can still get there before the finish of this. Once qualifying is concluded, we'll have the full qualifying order on screen. Well, not on screen, but I'll be able to read it off for you. We'll have that for us on the USA Network when the time comes. And, of course, we'll get an interview from the pole sitter for tomorrow's race as well. Here's an interview with Martin Truex Jr. before his qualifying lap in a matter of moments.
Qualifying, you see a 19 that has potential first for the pole.
Yeah, I think we're in the ballpark here. It's a tough place, tough race. Excited about the paint scheme on our Bass Pro Camry and about the speed we had today. So I feel like the balance is pretty close. That was a pretty good lap, a little conservative. We'll see what the track has in it and go from there.
All right, every time he comes here, the track gets a little bit older. Martin seems to get a little bit wiser, guys.
It's won a couple of times here at Darlington. I was talking with his crew chief, James Small, earlier this morning. He said they've had so many what ifs at close calls, and said Martin could easily be a 5 or 6 time winner here at Darlington. He runs really well here, and I think it goes right throughout the garage area. People would be happy to see.
All right, so Chris Buescher on track. You hear his engine winding up as he hops through the gears on his warm-up lap. So again, Group A, outside of the front row, will be on the outside lane for the start of tomorrow's race and the order in which they qualify in their group, and then Group B will make up the inside. Fastest from each group would make up the front row, of course, with the fastest time overall going to the pole sitter. So we'll see where Buescher's going to be at. I believe he was in the 29.5s in round one. Not as big of a drop off for him, a 29.650. Right around 1/10 of a second off of where he ran in round one. We'll see how that will hold compared to the next 9 qualifiers. So Buescher will be the first one. And on the top of the charts, here comes Tyler Reddick. Reddick trying to cap off what has been a hot summer stretch for himself this season. Reddick on his actual lap right now, circuiting through 1 and 2. Tracking in the green over Buescher, but not by much. Just a few 1,000ths of a second is the difference in lap time so far between Reddick and Buescher, but a very solid turns 3 and 4. Picked up a couple extra tenths there. 29.446 for Tyler Reddick. Great lap. That is going to be tough to beat with the cycle on these tires and knowing the fall off. That is a lap time that may hold. Will we see Reddick on the pole for the start of race day tomorrow? Now it's Kyle Larson's turn. In the number 5. Yeah, HendrickCars.com Chevrolet once again. What is the base primary scheme for that team through most of the races since Larson's tenure began in 2021 at Hendrick Motorsports? He's also tracking in the green on Reddick. Didn't get him by much, though. 29.444, 2 1,000ths of a second, the difference between Larson and Reddick. Reddick was better in 3 and 4 than Larson. Larson, a much better 1 and 2, was the difference in the lap Again, 2 1,000ths of a second. Kyle Larson gets to the top of the leaderboard. Well, I mentioned it was going to be tough to beat that lap time, and he barely got it, so you'd have to imagine Larson's lap time is going to be tough to beat as well. I think Bubba might put it in the wall trying to get that lap time. I mean, he see what he did in round 1. I wouldn't be surprised if he bashes the thing against the wall off 4 trying to get the pole time. He's definitely going to be digging for everything he's got. Meanwhile, though, for William Byron, he ended up putting up a 29.528, third of the 4 qualifiers. So again, 2nd through 5th of these first 5 will be on the outside row for the start of tomorrow's race. It'll be the Group B's driver's turn to try to go after Larson for the pole time. Waiting for Bubba Wallace to conclude his lap. He's not that far off of where Kyle Larson was through turns 1 and 2. Through turns 3 and 4. Started really wide. He actually ran the outside lane pretty much all the way through the corner. He kept it off the wall. Great job by Bubba Wallace. 29.421. He jumps to the top of the speed charts. And that will lock Wallace into a front row start for tomorrow's race, as he was the fastest of the Group B qualifier, or Group A qualifiers, excuse me, in round 1 and round 2. So 29.421, again, the lap to beat for the pole. Wallace flashing speed here this weekend at Darlington. And a weekend he needs it. Trying to clutch up and make the playoffs in the final race of the regular season. Mateo Carmona, thanks for tuning in. Kyle Busch, I think, was 7th, 8th. He was 8th in Group B. So Busch will be starting 15th tomorrow. Gibbs was 7th. He was the last guy to go out in that group. So Kyle Busch will be starting 15th tomorrow. 8th in Group B. So 5 drivers again still to qualify. Another commercial break on the USA Network. Carson Hocevar, Ryan Blaney, Chase Briscoe, Martin Truex Jr., and Christopher Bell will be the last 5. Again, the worst Wallace will start is 2nd because he was the fastest in his group. So if he does get knocked off the pole, he will be starting 2nd. I mentioned Tyler Reddick's time was going to be tough to beat. Larson got him by 2 1,000ths of a second, and Wallace topped Larson's time by 23 1,000ths of a second. You can tell Wallace is driving with more on the line this weekend than a lot of the other drivers through qualifying alone. We'll see how that'll hold up for 500 miles tomorrow. Remember, Ross Chastain is starting outside the top 10, so that opportunity to pick up a ton of stage points in stage 1 on him could be huge. He's already 6 points ahead of Chastain. So then he would just have to catch Chris Buescher, and Buescher's going to be starting in the top 10, but it looks like Buescher will be starting in the 10th place position. Great lap. You'll hear from Bubba if he does qualify on the pole. He looks fired up. That would be if I were him too. Position he's in right now. Literally couldn't do any better. He's got a front row starting spot for tomorrow. Here's the rookie Hocevar. Tracking in the green through 1 and 2 on Wallace's lap time. Great 1 and 2 for Carson. Can he hold up through 3 and 4? Walls pretty much ran the outside all the way through that corner. Hocevar, started on the outside. Then he kind of dipped the lane off the top through 3 and 4. 29.445 for Carson. It was literally right between Larson and Reddick. But fastest, obviously, of the first and only driver to qualify from Group B in this final round. Ryan Blaney is now on track making his lap. Blaney also really good through 1 and 2. Well, on entry, not as much on exit. He couldn't carry that much speed off the exit of the corner that time. I don't think Blaney's going to be able to beat Hocevar's lap. He's going to have to pick up a lot in 3 and 4 to do so. Runs up near the wall all the way through the corner. Yeah, Blaney not carrying the same amount lap time wise. So Blaney will qualify with a 29.617. Ahead of Buscher's lap time, but obviously a couple tenths behind Hocevar for a front row spot. Chase Briscoe is up. 3 drivers to go for Wallace and Hocevar to try to hold on to their front row starting positions. Tracking through the green through 1 and 2, but losing time down the backstretch on the entry to turn 3. Briscoe will back turn 3 and 4 up. Try to carry more through the center on exit. That doesn't work for him. It's amazing how deep Wallace and Hocevar were able to drive on entry through 3 and 4 and still carry a decent amount of momentum off the exit corner, because that seems to be where the tracker in the red for Briscoe and Blaney were losing the most time. That is the more off throttle and more braking corner on the racetrack, of course, so that could be another reason why we see that much of a variance in lap times on that end of the track versus 1 and 2, where you're really not on the brakes there and you're just slightly blipping the throttle in the middle of the corner. Maybe shifting a little bit as well down in turns 3 and 4 from 5th to 4th and back to 5th. I would imagine you'll end up staying in 4th back to the start-finish line in race trim mode. Obviously, you'll be back into 5th gear at some point between the entry to turn 1, unless you stay in 4th all the way around and don't shift back to 5th until you get off turn 2. That will probably vary, especially as we get deeper into the runs in the race tomorrow. The older the tires, probably the more shifting we'll see versus earlier in the run. Trucks with a 29.582, a couple tenths off of Wallace and Hocevar's lap time as well. Christopher Bell is the last driver to qualify. So Bell trying to knock Wallace and Hocevar off the front row. We'll see if he can do it. Lost a lot of time through turns 1 and 2. A lot of time. I think he was just late getting back to the gas. Almost wonder if he drove it in too deep on corner entry because he was so far in the green and then lost it middle to exit the corners. He couldn't get back into the gas as soon as he wanted. Picked up a little time in 3 and 4, but not enough, clearly. And Bubba Wallace, for the first time in 2024, will be on the pole. Comes in first driver below the cutoff line on points. And he'll walk into tomorrow's Southern 500, the pole sitter, Carson Hocevar. Shout out to him as well. He starts second tomorrow on race day on the front row. And here is pole sitter Wallace with Dave Burns on pit road.
High fives. Congratulating Hocevar as well. You were very committed today. The wall told the story there. How did you do it?
So post, that's sure. That's part of the paint scheme. So especially when you come here, just can't say enough about this team. It's a hell of an effort. It's been up and down year, but we've been really hot in the last, I don't know, couple months or so, and just been executing that far on all cylinders. That's what it takes. So I wanted it to be a great weekend, and you got to start on Saturdays, and we did that. So I wasn't happy with Brent. To be honest with you, I was pretty pissed about being 6th or 7th, wherever we were. So I had a little redemption to do, but I just can't say enough about everybody back at Airspeed, part of this 2311 group, 23 car. Appreciate Air Force being on the car. So many good things with them. So just a lot of good things pointing our way, but God, it's the Southern 500. So we got to work our asses off tomorrow. enjoy right now. I got to race Legend Car tonight, so that'll humble me real quick, racing against Keelan. But it's good to have fun and great fast cars, and you can't thank everybody enough.
As an athlete, what's it like to put it on your shoulders after last week and then deliver?
I strive for it, you know. I'm a very emotional guy, and I wear it on my sleeve, and I'll let you know when it's not a good day or when it's a good day. Today's a damn good day, so I live for it.
It's on his sleeve, Lee. Good day.
And you may have seen it and heard it on the Dale Jr. download that Bubba said that Michael Jordan sent him a text after the Daytona race and said, quote, "Things you want cost more." Well, Bubba has shown.
All right, so we will go over the starting lineup for tomorrow's Southern 500. Again, Bubba Wallace on the pole for the first time this season. Carson Hocevar with his first career front row starting spot as well. He'll be starting second on race day. In row 2, it'll be Chase Briscoe and Kyle Larson. Row 3, Martin Truex Jr. and Tyler Reddick, with row number 4 making up Ryan Blaney and William Byron. And row number 5 behind them will end up being Christopher Bell and Chris Buescher. And row number 6, Austin Cindric, Brad Keselowski. Ty Gibbs, Denny Hamlin in row 7. Josh Berry, Austin Dillon in row number 8. In row number 9, it will be Kyle Busch and John Hunter Nemechek. Row 10 for Corey LaJoie, Chase Elliott, Justin Haley, and Ross Chastain in row 11. Joey Logano, Harrison Burton in row 12. Row number 13 for Daniel Hemrick and Zane Smith, Alex Bowman and Eric Jones in row 14. Behind them in row 15 will be Noah Gragson, Ryan Preece, Michael McDowell, Daniel Suarez in row 16. In row number 17, it'll be Todd Gilliland, Shane Van Gisbergen, Kaz Growler, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Row 18. Stenhouse crashed in practice earlier today, so he may be in a backup car. We'll have to wait and see on that overnight. And Timmy Hill will round out the 37-car field for tomorrow's race. That is going to wrap up our coverage of full practice and qualifying from the Darlington Raceway for the NASCAR Cup Series right here on the channel. Be sure to tune in for tomorrow's race at 5:30 p.m. Eastern for our Cookout Southern 500 full race coverage, beginning with, again, our pre-race, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. That race will also be on the USA Network. Today's Xfinity race on the USA Network will also be broadcasted live on the channel as well. That will be at 3:30 p.m. Eastern in a little less than an hour from now. Hope to see you for that one. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you soon. And be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more daily NASCAR content on your way out if you haven't yet.